With New Zealand naming their squad for the England Test matches in less than 2 weeks' time now, it has made me rethink again about England's performance against Japan, and that's what I want to revisit now. With New Zealand's squad fresh in my mind, it made me think about how England are matching up. So I've revisited the Japan game. I'm going to give my thoughts on an individual level who played well. Did anyone play themselves out of a spot in that New Zealand Test match in a couple of weeks' time? Has anyone maybe likely to come in because we have particular areas of weakness? That's what I want to get into, and I'm going to break down overall how I think England went, where they're at, and with New Zealand in mind. I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up. It's just me. I'm Tim. This is Egg Chasers. I am a totally independent creator. It's just me, and consequently, I need your help to spread the word. And I love some of these international matchups. Later today, I travel to South Africa. I'm going to be out there covering Ireland versus South Africa, but absolutely keeping a keen eye on the match between England and New Zealand. So with that in mind, let me have a look at the ratings. And before I do, very briefly, let me just say that to me, 6 out of 10 means solid job, kind of did your job. 7 means you've had did a bit more than should have been expected. If you get to 8, you've had a very, very good game. If you get any higher than 8, you're having like world-class level performance. A 10, for me, if I give a 10 out, it would be that's a performance that people are going to talk about in pubs in 10 years' time. So just to sort of calibrate where you're thinking, because I'm starting with Bevan Rodd with a 5 out of 10, who, I mean, as I say, 6 would be to me base level of performance. I think he dipped just below that, like really industrious. Bevan Rodd is one person that has a brilliant work rate, but those fundamentals, I mean, how you only have to look back at the World Cup again. Can't scrum, can't win. And I thought actually the one area that Japan can feel quite good about is their scrummaging, and arguably the tight head prop for Japan got an edge on Bevan Rodd. And that worries me when I think about the big men, Tyrell Lomax, for example, waiting in wait for that New Zealand Test match in a couple of weeks. So slight question mark there over Bevan Rodd. I'll be interested to know what you think. Joe Marler, I'll come to him in a minute. I thought he shored up the scrum when he came on. And I understand Steve Borthwick likes to have Dan Cole and Joe Marler, one of them starting, one on the bench, so he can kind of shore up the scrum. But I don't know. Argument for Marler to start, perhaps. Jamie George, solid job. 44 minutes as well, by which time it was 33-3. Game was won. He had a lovely overthrow to Ollie Lawrence that set up that Marcus Smith try. A couple of missed tackles. Solid job. Dan Cole, same. The Koala Bear, 37 years young and keeps on going. And I thought after the 2019 World Cup final, that might be Dan Cole's last game in an England jersey. But here he is, 5 years later, still going strong and still looks, more than that, essential for England, which is a bit of a worry, I have to say, as far as England go. Maro Itoje, again, a 6 out of 10. Nothing for the highlights reel, but solid enough job. It was actually against New Zealand, if I remember rightly. It was down in New Zealand when Maro Itoje really announced himself as an international rugby player years back. Now, we want that sort of world-class level of performance, Maro. It's good. England are going to need it in the engine room. He'll be facing off against the new New Zealand captain, Scott Barrett, and Maro Itoje is going to have to assert his dominance in that particular battle. Maro Itoje now the vice-captain, and when Jamie George goes off, he took the captain role as well. So lots expected from Maro in that 2-test series against New Zealand. Lots is being delivered by George Martin at the minute. Top tackler, joint top tackler, and his maul defence is massive. This kid, and when you think about the age profile of some of these players, George Martin's got so much rugby ahead of him. He's going to get so much better, and he is already very, very good, as is Chandler Cunning himself, who, I mean, no one can replace Courtney Lawes, and we were always going to miss him, but he did a great Courtney Lawes impression at the weekend, just smashing people, smashing rucks, and worked really hard. Not an 80-minute player yet, but he's getting there. And it was 60 minutes for Chandler Cunning himself in this game. And in those 60 minutes, he was joint top tackler with George Martin. Some of them absolute bone crunchers. And with the ball, he is a fearsome carrier. And with the fact he's got some New Zealand heritage as well, just kind of adds a little bit of spice to the couple of matches. The 6 jersey is his, surely, isn't it? Sam Underhill, I thought he was great. Just all action. And Eddie Jones dubbed him and Tom Curry the Kamikaze Twins. When you've got the Kamikaze Twins, one of them starting, one on the bench, that is frightening. And it means Sam Underhill can just go out there and level people and hold nothing back. because he knows he's got someone that is arguably just as good waiting on the bench to take over from him. And England are in a very good spot there, particularly with the fact that England's best player in the last couple of years, Ben Earl, continued with a high level of performance. Slightly sluggish start. I think he gave away a penalty, but then, like the team, gathered a bit of momentum and was at the heart of everything, and even got 10 minutes at inside centre, which, again, Eddie Jones is the one that talked about that a while ago, and a lot of people laughed at him at the time. But given that you might want to go for a 6-2 split, and I'm thinking that's what England are going to do against New Zealand, rather than a 5-3 split in this game, they might go for a 6-2 split, knowing that if they're stuck without a centre, they've now got time, they've had time where they've tried Ben Earl in that, and that could bear fruit in the future. Whether they go 6-2 split against New Zealand, or whether they wait and use that at some point in the future, they've now tried it in an international match, and that's really, really cool. And Ben Earl, I mean, just such an explosive carrier. So the pack, not question marks, reservations about the front five, particularly, well, front row. Back row, though, very, very good. As for the backs, Alex Mitchell is... What I love about him, he's playing his natural game. He's been let off the leash. And in fact, Steve Borthwick had him on that leash during the Rugby World Cup for pragmatic reasons. But as England have grown in confidence and shown more ambition, it's just making Alex Mitchell have more influence and get better and better. And I thought in the 50 minutes he played, he was really good. As was Marcus Smith, who might have even had an 8.5 if it wasn't for that unnecessary yellow card. But he showed his class. For me, there was no debate about who should be England's starting 10, but I recognise there was a debate in the media, in the comments. There was lots of debate about who should be England's starting 10. I think that performance against Japan puts that to bed for the time being, doesn't it? It wasn't a debate for me, but Marcus Smith was excellent. The fact there was the break and gas to score, the lovely pass for the second try or the third try, and then the crossfield kick for the next try for Henry Slade. I think he's the boy. He's the boy. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when George Ford comes back. And I'll get to Finn Smith in a little bit. Again, your thoughts down below in the comments. Tell me if you disagree with anything. Tommy Freeman, really love his work. Try-saving tackle, worked hard, chasing kicks, making a nuisance. Didn't get on the ball as much as he would like, but was always looking for work. And I love that about Tommy Freeman. Big old unit as well. As is Ollie Lawrence, who... His ball carry for the Marcus Smith try was important straight off the back of a line-out. He's a focal point in the midfield for England. And, yeah, the physical challenge that he brings, him on Geordie Barrett, is going to be an interesting one to watch. Two big old units. Geordie Barrett, who took all those massive shots from Pieter-Steph du Toit. So he's a tough rooster. And it's going to be a big, big test for Ollie Lawrence, that one. And Henry Slade, who... They are the natural combination now. It feels like it fits, doesn't it? And Henry Slade's had an amazing season. Wobbly start in this match, missed touch, but then, like the whole team, grew into it, got a try and was solid. Emmanuel Faye-Waboso missed a few tackles, which is why I've just nudged him to a 6.5, but his contact meters, he's a freak. And I cannot wait to see him up against another world-class team. This is going to be, I mean, to think he's only played, a relative handful of professional rugby matches, and he's going to be going down to New Zealand. He's shown no fear in the Six Nations. I cannot wait to see how he gets on. Mark Talea and Emmanuel Faye-Waboso could be a proper matchup. I cannot wait for that. And George Furbank, who again, another player who's having an increasing influence on how England play, countering from deep. That threat that he poses means that opposition, they're going to be less confident in kicking because they know they need to kick on the money. Otherwise, George Furbank, we saw it against Scotland where it was his attacking play. Ireland, sorry. His attacking play led to the try, which got England on the front foot against Ireland. And again, that third try, the Emmanuel Faye-Waboso one, all started from George Furbank getting the ball deep and counter-attacking, and you love to see it. So that's my thoughts on the England team. The bench, Theo Dan, fine, solid. I mean, it feels a little bit like the Hartley-George era where there's people saying, hold on a minute, should Theo Dan be starting over Jamie George in the way they used to say George over Hartley back in the day? I wonder how much the England captaincy could be a factor there, because that was also the thing that happened with Dylan Hartley just before people started to say he should be dropped for Jamie George, is he got given the England captaincy. It's quite a big job, isn't it? But for what it's worth, I think Theo Dan's great off the bench. Joe Marler was good. And again, should he start at loosehead prop? Or should we keep him in reserve so we kind of spread our resources a little bit? Because England at prop is a worry for me. I don't think it's as good as the rest of the team. Will Stewart, fine. I hoped that he was going to take over from Dan Cole and make the number 3 jersey his own. He's not done that yet, but decent off the bench. Charlie Ewels, 1 out of 10. What can you say? He got a red card against Ireland in his last Test match. He's had a brilliant season for Bath. He earned his spot on the bench, and he totally deserved his spot on the bench. He comes back in from the international wilderness, 7 minutes into his return. Another red card, and he's flying home. He must be absolutely gutted. I can, at the same time, feel sorry for him, because I do. Just as a bloke, he's had a brilliant season, but yeah, kind of brain dead decision, which has cost him. I wonder if he'll get another shot. Tom Curry, glad to see him back, shaken off that hip injury. It is interesting that Alex Sanderson was saying if you play Tom Curry this summer, you're going to take years off his career in the long run. Steve Borthwick and his coaching staff obviously take a different view. Like I said, with the Kamikaze twins, one starting, one on the bench, delighted about that. Harry Randall, really like him. Kicks, not great, but the tempo he adds just continues, and if anything, elevates the tempo from Alex Mitchell. Finn Smith, decent enough. Again, 5.5. That isn't a major criticism. 6 would be did what they expected, solid. I've only nudged him down to a 5.5 because his first involvement in the game was a missed tackle which led to a Japan try. But fine, good. Tom Roback, his first touch, meanwhile, he nearly scored an international try. Big boy, quick, and quickly got up to speed. Albeit it was Japan, you have to take that with a pinch of salt, but promising. As for overall, 1 good, 1 bad, 1 I'm not sure. Front row, concern. Particularly when we're facing New Zealand. De Groot and Lomax are serious players. And the backups they've got as well, whichever ones it ends up being, Tamaiti Williams, Fletcher Newell, Ortunga Fassi, or the new boy Tosi, big boys. And England are going to get a challenge there. And they need to deliver. So, question mark, maybe a slight thumbs down. Back row, though, more than making up for that. And I think whoever New Zealand pick in their back row, even with the great Ardie Savia, Dalton Papali'i, and whoever the other back row player is, they've got their hands full with this England trio who look ace. Defence, particularly in that first 10 minutes, Japan obviously were trying to get to the outside England's blitz defence. We saw the good and the bad of it. It can be absolutely brilliant and wreck Ireland a little bit in the Six Nations. It can also get exposed. Scott Robertson's a smart man. Beauden Barrett, Damien McKenzie, Geordie Barrett, Rico Ioane, Mark Talea. Some of these New Zealand backs are outrageously talented, and if they sniff an opportunity, they'll take it. That England defence of Felix Jones up against world-class backs for New Zealand is a matchup that at this point could go either way. So that's my thumbs up, thumbs down, and question mark 1 to watch. Tell me what you think. Cannot wait for this Test match series. I think New Zealand should and are rightfully favourites. They're in their own backyard. One of the grounds England that haven't won at in forever. And it's still relatively early days for Steve Borthwick on this journey with some new combinations still bedding in. I think New Zealand are and should be favourites, but I think England could, particularly as New Zealand are going to be starting from nothing and they're going to have to get their rustiness out of the system whilst they're playing against England. There's definitely an opportunity. It should be great. Your comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up. See you on the next one, yeah?